another Deep Rock Galactic subclass for D&D. This Homebrew Artificer subclass will cover the final character we have not mentioned yet, which is the Engineer. So without wasting any time, let's just get straight into it, starting with the description of the subclass.
The dice are loaded.
Engineers are master craftsmen who wield a magical Plastcrete Launcher. With it, they can conjure versatile Plastcrete structures on the battlefield, including platforms for strategic advantage, barriers for impenetrable defense, and a devastating Plastcrete ball for controlled chaos. As they advance in skill, their Plastcrete creations become more resilient and gain unique abilities, making them an unparalleled architect of battlefield control. So the first thing we get as part of this subclass is our 3rd level tool proficiency. You gain proficiency with the Mason's tools. If you already have this proficiency, you gain a proficiency with one other type of Artisan's tool of your choice. So pretty standard stuff, and we have one more standard thing to cover, and that's the Engineer spell list. So let's cover the spells you get as part of Engineer.
Help me with the minerals here.
At 3rd level, you get the Floating Disc and Silent Image spells. At 5th level, you get the Blindness Deafness spell and Shatter. At 9th level, you get the Magic Circle and Slow spell. At 13th level, the Giant Insect and Resilient Sphere spells. And at 17th level, Arcane Hand and Wall of Force. So that was the basic things that all Artificers get starting out in subclasses, and I'm sure you're familiar with all of these things. The only thing I'll mention here is that those first 2 spells as part of the spell list, Silent Image and Floating Disc, were specifically chosen because Silent Image is meant to represent the hologram-like lure grenade that you get as part of Engineer to lure enemies in. And the Floating Disc spell is in there kinda because it's just similar to the platforms that you make with your platform launcher. Though, as you'll see going forward, we don't necessarily need the Floating Disc to make platforms like we do in Deep Rock Galactic because we have an ability that allows us to do that anyways. So let's talk about that first ability we get at 3rd level, which is Plastcrete Launcher.
Platform! Access provided.
You've learned how to create a magical Plastcrete Launcher. The Plastcrete Launcher is a machine that churns an alchemical and magical mixture of foamy yellow substance that becomes hard as rock when deployed and set. Using Tinker's tools or Smith's tools, you can take an action to magically create a small or tiny launcher in an unoccupied space on a horizontal surface within 5 feet of you. A small launcher occupies its space, and a tiny one can be held in one hand. Once you create a Plastcrete Launcher, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, or until you expend a spell slot to create one. You can only have one launcher at a time, and can't create one while one is already present. The Plastcrete Launcher is a magical object. Regardless of size, it has an AC of 18, and a number of hit points equal to 5 times your Artificer level. It is immune to poison damage and psychic damage. If it is forced to make an ability check or saving throw, treat all of its ability scores as 10. If the Mending spell is cast on it, it regains 2d6 hit points. It disappears if it is reduced to 0 hit points or after 1 hour. You can dismiss it early as an action. When you create the Plastcrete Launcher, you determine its appearance and whether it has legs. On each of your turns, you can take a bonus action to cause the launcher to activate if you are within 60 feet of it. As part of the same bonus action, you can direct the launcher to walk or climb up to 15 feet to an unoccupied space provided it has legs. When activated, choose one of the following types of Plastcrete from the options below for the type of Plastcrete that is launched. Plastcrete Platform. The Plastcrete Launcher fires a foamy yellow blob at a surface you designate within 120 feet of the launcher. When the foam makes contact, it creates a 10-foot diameter circular yellow platform that is 1 foot thick. If the surface was horizontal, the platform sticks flat against it. If the surface is vertical, the platform sticks outward perpendicular to the surface, creating a horizontal platform. If the surrounding space is not large enough to support the foam's full size, then the foam fills what space is available to it. The platform can support up to 1,000 pounds of weight, and has an AC of 10 plus your proficiency bonus, and hit points equal to 10 plus your artificer level. The platform stays active for 1 minute until dismissed, or until a new Plastcrete platform is created. If unstuck from its surface, the platform is destroyed. The platform is quite springy, and any creatures that fall onto the platform take half of the normal fall damage. Additionally, your platforms have a gritty surface, allowing for excellent foot stability. Any creature that makes a weapon attack while standing on the platform has an extra +1 to the attack roll. Plastcrete Barrier. The Plastcrete Launcher fires a foamy yellow blob at a surface you designate within 120 feet of the launcher. When the foam makes contact, it creates a 10 foot by 10 foot square yellow foam barrier that is 1 foot thick. The barrier always sticks perpendicular from the surface it is attached to, and you may choose the orientation. If the surrounding space is not large enough to support the foam's full size, then the foam fills what space is available to it. The platform cannot be unstuck from the surface by less than 1,000 pounds of force, and has an AC of 10 plus your proficiency bonus, and hit points equal to 10 plus your artificer level. The barrier stays active for 1 minute, until dismissed, or until a new Plastcrete barrier is created. If unstuck from its surface, the barrier is destroyed. Any creature of a large or smaller size has full cover behind this barrier. Additionally, any large or smaller creature standing within 5 feet of the barrier gains an extra +1 bonus to their armor class. Plastcrete Ball. The Plastcrete Launcher fires a foamy yellow blob that immediately takes the shape of a 3-foot diameter yellow foam ball as it exits the launcher. The ball weighs 300 pounds, and when created, launches at a point of your choice with enough force to travel 60 feet along the ground or 30 feet through the air. All creatures in the ball's path must make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, or take 2d8 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone on a failure. On a success, the creatures take no damage and are not knocked prone. The ball has the Siege property, dealing double damage to structures. The ball has an AC of 10 plus your proficiency bonus, and hit points equal to 10 plus your artificer level. The ball stays active for 1 minute, until dismissed, or until a new Plastcrete ball is created. So if you haven't realized it already, this first ability is simulating the platform gun that you get in Deep Rock Galactic, although there is a bit more to this than the platform gun in Deep Rock Galactic. Now initially you might be thinking that you're going to get turrets as part of this subclass. Now the thing I'll say about that is, if you want to play an Artificer that has turrets, just play Artillerist. I'm being serious, they are literally the turrets that you would want from Engineer in Deep Rock Galactic. So I'm not doing turrets as part of this subclass because it's kind of stepping on the toes of Artillerist to do that and a bit repetitive. So I decided to focus on the platform gun as part of this because that is the other significant thing that the Engineer has from Deep Rock Galactic. Now, of course, with this version of the platform gun here, the Plastcrete Launcher, which Plastcrete is the name of the substance in Deep Rock Galactic that is shot from the platform gun, you can do a bit more with this Plastcrete Launcher than just make platforms. Although you can make platforms, you can also make barriers and like a wrecking ball. Now, starting off, these different things you can do, these different Plastcrete forms, give minor benefits, but also just provide the functions that they normally would, right? Having an extra platform on any wall or surface is useful and can be useful in some scenarios. Having a barrier that provides full cover can be nice. Especially if you have a teammate who's in a lot of trouble and needs a barrier quickly, you can just make one as a bonus action right in front of them. And that's the other thing to note about all these is I've basically copied the way the Artillerist makes their turrets to make these Plastcrete launchers. So the Plastcrete launcher functions the same way as the Artillerist turret does. As a bonus action, you can just do one of these Plastcrete abilities. Now, unlike the Artillerist, you have access to all 3 of these different types at the same time, but you can't have more than 1 copy of the same type up at a time. So you could create a platform, create a barrier, and fire a ball all in the same combat. But if you create a second barrier after the first, then your first barrier will be destroyed and you'll create a new one. And then of course the Plastcrete ball is a pretty nice line attack for low level Artificer, as well as giving you the ability to target aerial targets with it, and also deal extra damage to structures with the Siege feature. So all of these Plastcrete types here give pretty minor benefits and can be situationally useful, but also are just pretty generic in how they function. But as we continue on with this subclass, we're going to get some more specific features and benefits that go along with these Plastcrete types. So let's continue through the subclass. The next ability we get is our 5th level feature, which typically is a bit of a smaller feature as part of Artificer because it is only 2 levels after the 3rd level feature. So let's talk about that feature. And that feature is Solid Mixture.
Rock and roll!
You have refined your Plastcrete Launcher's mixing process to create a stronger foam structure. All of your Plastcrete creations now have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So this solid mixture ability is pretty minor. It is not extra attack, so you will not be getting extra attack as part of this subclass, but it is a pretty nice feature, especially for the barrier. Of the 3 Plastcrete creations you make, the barrier is probably going to be the one that, if ever gets targeted, that one will get targeted, just because it's providing cover to people, though the platform may get targeted if somebody's really high up and an enemy is particularly clever and wants to make them fall. But I see the barrier probably taking the most damage often in combat. So right now at this level, your Plastcrete barrier has 15 hit points because it is 10 plus your Artificer level. So not shabby hit points, but having this little extra bump to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing resistance is going to make it a little bit stronger. Now I will say that primarily the concern for the destruction of your barrier will probably come from AoE spells, as an AoE targeted spell on people next to the barrier will coincidentally also hit the barrier. So this resistance here isn't going to help with that, but it will help if any enemies start to specifically target the barrier. But of course you can just make a new barrier every turn, so as long as it survives one round, you're basically fine. So now that we've covered that, let's move on to the next substantial ability as part of the subclass at 9th level, which is Plastcrete MKII.
Loot box looted! Can't carry anymore.
This new and improved Plastcrete formula allows for more magical power in the mixing process. Your Plastcrete creations each gain new unique benefits. Improved Plastcrete platform. Your Plastcrete platforms have a number of improvements. The distance you can fire the platform has increased from 120 feet to now 300 feet. Your platforms are now extra springy, allowing any creature that jumps from the platform to triple their jump distance. Additionally, the bonus to weapon attack rolls made from the platform increases to a +2. Improved Plastcrete barrier. Your Plastcrete barriers become extra protective against magical attacks, even capable of reflecting magic. If a ranged spell attack roll is made against a creature standing within 5 feet of the barrier and misses, the spell strikes the barrier and is ricocheted back at the caster. The caster must make a dexterity saving throw against your spell save DC, and on a failure, they are struck by their own spell for half the damage it normally deals. Improved Plastcrete ball. The Plastcrete ball has become heavier and faster. The ball now weighs 400 pounds and deals an extra 1d8 bludgeoning damage, and can now travel 120 feet along the ground and 60 feet through the air. Additionally, you may now redirect the ball once during its initial travel distance, allowing it to change direction suddenly. So all of these improvements now to your Plastcrete creations are going to in general just improve the effectiveness of your Plastcrete creations on the battlefield. And if I'm being perfectly honest, a lot of these improvements now are making these sort of creations that you're putting on the battlefield kind of funny. And to be honest, I think your allies would just have a lot of fun with all of these almost playground type creations being on the battlefield. But of course, these things are also pretty effective in combat here, especially now being able to, add a +2 to your attacks when you're on the platform, being able to reflect spells back at spellcasters when they make ranged attack rolls, and having a wrecking ball that is essentially like ping-ponging through the battlefield as it changes direction suddenly midway through its travel. Which, by the way, I will say is one of my favorite parts of these, is that ability to change the direction of the ball almost turns it into 2 separate line attacks. You make a line attack with the ball, and then halfway through its travel or something, you could change the direction, making a new line attack from a different position. And not to spoil anything, but it's only going to get better from here. So let's move on to talking about the final ability as part of this subclass at 15th level, which is Foam Sweet Foam. You have perfected the Plastcrete formula, creating the ultimate magical mixture. Your Plastcrete creations each gain new benefits. Perfected Plastcrete platform. The distance you can create a platform has now increased to 500 feet. The platform can now support up to 2,000 pounds. The diameter of the platform is now 15 feet, and additionally you may have 2 platforms active at once. Creating a third will destroy the oldest platform, Perfected Plastcrete Barrier. Plastcrete barriers are now 15 foot by 15 foot in size, and can grant all of its benefits to creatures huge or smaller. The armor class bonus from the barrier increases to a +2. Additionally, you may now have 2 barriers active at once. Creating a third will destroy the oldest barrier. Perfected Plastcrete Ball. The Plastcrete Ball now weighs 500 pounds and deals another 1d8 extra of bludgeoning damage. The ball can now travel 200 feet along the ground and 100 feet through the air. Additionally, you may now redirect the ball twice during its initial travel distance, allowing it to change direction suddenly. So now we reach the final improvements to these abilities, and the things I'll mention here is that now you can create 2 barriers and 2 platforms at once, which is going to allow you to increase the effectiveness of using those on the battlefield quite a bit, especially being able to connect platforms together or connect barriers together. Now, one thing I will clarify here, because I'm sure it will come up, no, you cannot stand next to 2 barriers at the same time, be within 5 feet of both, and get an overlap of that armor class. Standing next to a barrier grants you the armor class bonus, regardless of how many barriers you are standing next to. But additionally, now these things have increased in size too. The platforms are now 15 foot in diameter, and the barriers are now 15 foot by 15 foot in size. And now personally, my favorite part is that we can redirect that Plastcrete ball twice during its travel. Not to mention that its travel distance has increased by a lot. I have to say, I think it would be hilarious to see this Plastcrete ball ping-ponging through the battlefield, making 2 different shifts during its trajectory, and just knocking everyone prone on the battlefield. So that was the Engineer Homebrew subclass from Deep Rock Galactic, the final Homebrew subclass that I will be doing as part of this game, as we are out of characters. However, I may still continue to do stat blocks from Deep Rock Galactic, so keep an eye out for those. For now though, I will be moving on to other games for Homebrew subclasses, and possibly also doing stat blocks from other games, so let me know what you'd like to see there. But that's all for now, so check the description for links to D&D Beyond, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.